back to the Cover Story podcast. I'm Jack and he's Mac, and we're on a never-ending quest to earn you some racks. This is episode 2. That's right, we are back, folks. Thank you for tuning in once again. Mac, we're here again, episode 2. How are we feeling?
Feeling good. We have made it to week 2, which is more than my mom ever said I would make it to. So, we are happy to be here. Just kidding. My mom's very supportive. Love you, Mom. But excited to be back and talk about the previous week, but most importantly, looking forward to what is ahead over the next week or so.
That's right. We're going to give a quick recap here to start the show, talk about some of the games we mentioned on last week's show, give you some winners, talk about the losers, because we are fully transparent here. We don't always post wins like some other people out there on these apps. So starting off, Alabama beats Mizzou, heartbreaker. Hopefully you tailed Mac and didn't follow my very completely and utterly unbiased opinion. It was a close one, though. Mizzou did cover, so good teams win, great teams cover. But overall, just too many mistakes from the Tigers. Early penalties on the defensive end were just bonehead plays. And then, Bo Perbula interception to end the game. Very much missed a wide-open Marquise Johnson for a first down and what likely would have been a go-ahead score. There was about no one within 30 yards of him on the left side of the field, and he just didn't see him. So that one was a tough one.
Yeah, that was wild. Hate to see it end in that fashion, but it would have been an absolute shock to see your Missouri Tigers come out with a win there. But other than that, not too bad of a game.
Yeah, well, you know what? They only have one loss, so who knows? Maybe we can run the table and figure out a way to get to the playoff. We'll see. A team that is definitely going to make the playoffs is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They took down Illinois. Neither of us thought that they were going to be able to cover the 13.5, but they did. So, Yikes. I was right, though. The Ohio State defense is unbelievable. That is probably the best unit in the program. So keep an eye out for the Buckeyes. Sticking in the Big Ten, probably the biggest game of the week. It's not the biggest news of the week, but the biggest game of the week. Shout out to the Hoosiers. Kurt Cignetti and the boys went across to Oregon and took out the Ducks at Autzen Stadium. Pretty convincing game. I feel like it was really never in doubt. Oregon, was hanging tough, but the Hoosiers were just too much. I believe they won by 10 points. So double-digit win for Cignetti and the boys. And shout out to our good friends and your lovely fiance, Maddie and Camden. So shout out to the Hoosiers for that signature win for the program there.
Big win.
And Mac, I'll kick it to you for the Red River Rivalry recap, shootout rivalry, whatever we're going to go with.
Yeah, no, this is as I mentioned in the last pod, a bit of an emotional one. I grew up watching, following, and supporting Texas in these games since my mother is an alma mater, an alum from University of Texas. And as I said, there is something about these games where we have been seeing Arch Manny not show up all year long. We're starting to think this is overhyped. Now, he didn't do anything spectacular in this game by any means, but that University of Texas defense did show up. Or some might even say, was it the D or was Mateer rushed onto the field too quickly? I mean, looking at what he was doing in that game, he definitely looked as if he needed another week or so to recover because he couldn't read any of the D at all, or he was aiming right and the ball was going left. So overall, I think Texas had that going in their favor and were able to back it up and get the big dub in Dallas. So we love seeing that. Love seeing my mom happy about that, of course. But overall, excited for UT to actually get, in this case, probably their biggest win that they're going to have all year long. I don't see them really doing much further to progress, let alone make the college football playoffs. So they got the Red River under the belt, and overall, that could be a positive for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously big win for them. Good confidence builder for Arch. Like you said, didn't do anything special, but also didn't lose them the game. Kept them in it, relied on that defense. And methinks Mateer may have come back too early. Credit to him for getting out there. Had thumb surgery, 2 weeks ago, which is insane. I think it was like 17 days after surgery, he was back on the field. Credit to him for getting out there, but maybe could have waited another week. Revisionist history there. Okay, Highlights though, specialty picks. We gave you one for Friday night. South Florida over North Texas. Told you to take the underdogs on the road. Boy, was I right there. 63-36 final over North Texas. That one was, figured out by the first quarter. That was a runaway
Yeah.
game for South Florida. And then I tried to outsmart Vegas, and I told you to take Michigan traveling out west to USC. And that one was a complete flop. Lincoln Riley and the boys were told all week long that they weren't tough enough. They couldn't have it in them to win. Sharon Moore said it was going to be packed just because Michigan was showing up. Well, there's a 3-score loss for you, Sharon Moore. Head back to Michigan with your tail between your legs. So that one, not great. 1-1 on the specialty picks in college. But the news of the weekend, James Franklin out at Penn State. They lose at home to Northwestern. Third straight loss for what used to be a top 5, if not top 3 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Mac, is that the worst 3-week stretch in college football history? Probably not the worst 3-week stretch for Penn State, but we won't touch on that, pun intended. Terrible, terrible showing for James Franklin down the end here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked. I feel like we don't typically see this big or this monumental of a program with a big name like him and James being canned mid-season. I typically they accept the losses. They realize they're not going to be going to where they need to be going. They play the year out and then make a decision. But for an historic program like Penn State to then go ahead and do that, I was a bit shocked. Now, do I feel bad for them? Absolutely not. I will never forget my heart being broken in 2012 by a Penn State girl that I met in London, and I root for their downfall every single year because of that. So no tears from this end on the Penn State fiasco. But overall, though, I think especially with that news, your specialty picks, at least the South Florida one, which we know is plus money line and good profit there.
Okay, moving on to the NFL. Now, we're not going to dive into this too long, but we do need to air this out because for those of you that follow us on social, you saw probably a massive win on Thursday night happen in the first half. That was a 3-leg anytime touchdown parlay featuring Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Cam Scatabo and Jackson Dart. Now, normally you would be like, wow, that's awesome. Congrats, guys. Totally happy for you. What a great way to gain followers.
That's what they should do.
But
we don't
when you
need
get the full story.
Nope, we don't.
Yep. Let's give them a little insight here. This is the Cover Story Podcast. We like to tell tales. Now, this one is strictly nonfiction because I gave Mac 4 names that I liked, all 3 of the aforementioned touchdown scores, along with Saquon Barkley. And I said I would like to figure out how we can get these gentlemen into a parlay together. Now, I was told by Mac, Scatabo, scared of touchdowns, scared of catches. What did he do? Cleared his catch line, and he scored a touchdown. 3 of them, if I might add. And Jackson Dart also scored. He said, I don't think I like Dart today. He's going to come back down to earth. He killed me last week. I don't want him. And then I go off to dinner with my good friend Pat. What do I know? My group chat starts exploding. I'm wondering what the heck happened. Jalen Hurts' knee exploded. Don't wish injuries on anyone. Don't know what happened. No, I find out that Mac won a plus 2,100 parlay using my intel, but didn't want to tell me about it. So your defense, my good player.
I think, and I appreciate the opportunity to present my defense here. A couple things. First of all, never once out of those 4 picks, never once was it ever mentioned, suggested, or recommended that we go with those 3 specifically in one parlay. Okay, that's evidence A, Exhibit A. I don't know, Kevin, you're a lawyer. Tell me later if this is right or not. Exhibit B, or evidence B. I was bestowed some bonus bets, some free play by my VIP rep over at DraftKings. Shout out, Jack. And I figured, you know what? This money line is very enticing. We're about to kick off. Why don't we go with a little bit of a QB and scataboo parlay just to see what happens? In that moment, I may have forgotten that those were the picks that my colleague here, Jack, had provided and that I'd shut down simply because, again, I was emotionally distraught by those 2 cost me money the previous weekend. So in a blind leap of faith, I threw my bonus bet on that particular parlay. And, of course, as we all know, it hit. And it hit like a ton of bricks. And we cashed out on a pretty nice little cash out right there. But, again.
No, we didn't cash out. You cashed.
Yes,
we did not.
The podcast, was able to cash out on that one. But, it wasn't my own money. Still back my initial, I should say, hesitancy with backing those because of the prior performances. And so I figured if it's just free money, why not just throw it out in the ether and see what happens? And it just happened to go in our way. So, chat and whoever's watching, following, listening, feel free to comment whether someone is A, overreacting, or B, if the person that placed the bet had every right to because it was free play and it was a last second kind of flyer. So, either of those options I think are reasonable. Whichever one you think is most accurate, by all
Correct.
means.
Either of those are reasonable, or option C, like maybe the little kickback to the person who delivered some of the data and the intel. But yeah,
Huh.
comment on the episode, and we'll see what the people think. Looking ahead to Sunday Night Football, that
Mm-hmm.
was the Chiefs and Lions.
Oh, yeah.
Kansas City gets back to 500. The Lions held tough, but Kansas City ultimately too much. Detroit feeling a little miffed by some of the calls that were had in favor of Patrick
Rightfully
Mahomes
so.
and the gang.
Yep.
The real story of this one, though, is Juju Smith-Schuster is in a little kerfuffle at the end of the game. He's left battered and bloody. He tried to fake flop, then he got back up, did a little slappy punch thing. There's a hilarious photo of him laying on the ground, leaking blood from his nose. I have very longly called him doo-doo poop shooter, and
Mm,
I once again think
nice.
he is ass, and I do not like him. So that was kind of fun to see. But what is not fun to see, the Kansas City Chiefs look like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're back to 500, as I said. They get Rashee Rice back this week, and they play the Raiders in Arrowhead again. So, yeah, that's probably going to be like 45-10, and the Chiefs are probably going to win the AFC because the Bills look like they're terrible. They're in complete disarray,
Yeah. My
and
God.
a lot of people lost money on Monday night to the Bills.
Yeah. Us included. I mean, there's some pretty staggering number. What was it? It was 21,000 bets on the Bills.
21,000 bets on the money line alone, and I
Jesus.
think it accumulated $1.1 million lost solely on the
Sweet.
Bills money line. That is thanks to Pickett Sports, data from Pickett Sports. But yeah, everyone thought exactly what we did. Got to come back, got to show up, prime time again.
Mm-hmm.
And no, Bills defense is in trouble. Falcons looked good, though. I will give them credit. They played tough. Probably the biggest game that's been held in that stadium in a long time. Bijan is unbelievable. Thank you for having him on my two fantasy teams that I care about. So, yeah, a very, very strong showing from the Falcons. They might be good, and the Bills are in trouble.
Yeah. No, if I was an Atlanta Falcon fan, I would be pretty happy right now. If I was the commissioner for the other leagues that you apparently don't care about, I would be pretty heartbroken. But, we don't need to touch on the details there. I think just for overall and the wrap up of the NFL was a very, very hit or miss weekend for us here at the Cover Story. But of course, as always, we look onward and upward.
Well, we did hit a nice moneyline bank builder, though, because I told you to
Oop,
take the Colts, I told
that
you to
is
take the
right.
Rams, and I told you to take the Pats, and that little plus 150 number turned out nicely.
Bingo.
Colts made it a little scary for us down the stretch, but like I said, the Arizona Cardinals don't know how to win tight games. So, yeah, that one was a good one. So, in terms of the specialty picks across college and the NFL, 2-1, not bad.
We'll take that.
Plus money for the South Florida money line, as well as a plus money parlay winner. So there you have it.
Very
Okay.
profitable football weekend from the Cover Story.
Yes, and hopefully another one coming. Speaking of football,
Mm-hmm.
European football, Mac, we're
Mm-hmm.
back.
We
The
are.
international slate is done. I don't know. We didn't win. We did win. USA, we good or not?
Yeah, so international break is officially over as of recording. And USA, gotta say, I'm very pleased with our performances. Now, we did not win our first friendly against Ecuador. It was a 1-1 draw. But I will say that squad, very young, very scrappy, a lot of young talent. And we, of course, didn't have a lot of our starters. Not, I don't think more so because of they're unavailable. Poach, even to this day, is still making very questionable roster decisions. I can go on a long tangent of why I think the MLS is basically has their pocket into the men's national teams or hand in their pocket. There's a lot. I won't digress here. I won't get off track. But overall, I think we actually looked really well. His playing style really showed in that first opening game. We had a lot of great chances. Looked sound defensively. Chris Richards is the fucking man. I'm absolutely full blown on him on our center back. I hope we can figure out who we're going to pair him with for the World Cup. But in our friendly with Australia, very exciting to win. Haji Wright with a brace. I am loving this kid. He is tearing up the second division in England, the championship right now for Coventry. And we now are actually officially back to having a strikers quarrel, if you will, because Balogun was looking like to be the full outright starter, but Haji Wright's knocking on the door and he's saying, hey, I got two boots here that could be able to put the ball in the back of the onion sack. So very exciting time to have that kind of problem. We never really had that. Of course, the only problem we really face, not only, but big one, is we don't know who will be in between the sticks. But when we're looking now at the most exciting part, in my opinion, of the week is club football is back. We have some exciting matches across Europe coming up this weekend, as well as here in the States with MLS. But I'm first going to be looking at the Premier League over in England, and I'm going to be looking at three games in particular on Saturday. First one is going to be Chelsea playing at Nottingham Forest. Now, with Chelsea being away, they're actually favored by, I think it's less than minus 140. So seeing that line, the way Chelsea's been playing recently, but really most importantly, the way Nottingham Forest has been playing, Cole Palmer is going to be showing up, and he's going to be looking chilly throughout that game. I see Chelsea taking the win, although Palmer, if I'm not mistaken, he could be injured. But even regardless if he is injured or if he's back, I see Chelsea here. Nottingham Forest appointed Ange Postel. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. The Australian, previous Tottenham manager, and I don't even think has registered a single win since he's taken over. They have no identity. They have all the talent in the world. They did lose some players, but they still have one of the more strong midfielder games, I would say, in the league, and they have nothing going for them, even within the last 7 matches with Ange. So I see Chelsea taking that one. Next up, we're going to be looking at Man City playing at Everton. I think this is going to be a pretty consistent win for City. Everton does look pretty strong these days.
Well, they still have Tim Howard, right?
You know, they wish they had Tim Howard. In fact, I wish the U.S. men's national team still had Tim Howard. That would, I think, be better than what we have at this point.
Everton doesn't have Tim Howard. They don't stand a chance. Who do they have that's going to do anything against City?
They have someone by the name of Jack Grealish, who actually
Jamie Tart. Nice.
Played for Man City. Yes, a big inspiration for the character Jamie Tart in Apple TV's hit series Ted Lasso. He has been lights out for Everton. And also, I'm always going to be a big fan of David Moyes. I think he's a fantastic manager, and he's back at his own club, and they are doing amazing things for that type of club and that type of brand moving forward and style of football. But I'm still going to be taking City on the away, if parlaying that with Chelsea. And then, of course, the piece de resistance to top off this 3-team parlay on Saturday is picking Arsenal to beat Fulham at Craven Cottage at Fulham. Sorry, Cuzzos. My cousins are fans of supporters of Fulham. Some even have season tickets over there. But I think Arsenal's going to be taking the 3 points pretty easily. They're now back to being neck and neck with Liverpool in the title race, so hard to not back them up. And that is my big 3 picks for Premier League on Saturday. But, of course, Sunday is the big one.
Oh, yeah.
For those that don't follow the Premier League, Sunday we have one of the biggest rivalry matches, one of the biggest matches in, I would say, it happens every year, twice a year for that matter, in the Prem, and that is my Man United versus Jack's Liverpool, a.k.a. Liverstool. And if you look at recent performances...
in Liverpool, thank you very much.
Well, it's just his own. But if you're looking at recent performances, Liverpool has been on a downward spiral recently. All this money they've been splashing left and right. Florian Wirtz for Liverpool, who came over from Bayern Leverkusen, at the time a record-breaking signing, before they splashed another record-breaking signing on Alexander Isak from Newcastle, who, by the way, also isn't really doing much.
It's October. We have plenty of time.
Okay, it's what I mean. If you look at
the boys are gelling.
Stoppage time winners this year alone, Liverpool I think has 5, and that's when they're given 8+ minutes of stoppage time. I won't dive into the actual statistics there.
Win when it counts, baby. Win when it counts.
But this is going to be one where I typically would want to do an emotional hedge. I would say I'm going to hammer Liverpool for a win-win situation. Half of us here are big fans of emotional hedges. The other half are not. But I think, you know what, let's make it a little bit more interesting, right? Instead of putting our wallets on this one, Jack, I think we put our dignity on the line here. And
naturally, okay.
Wager between the two. And I don't know. I'm thinking there's some opportunity. We got Halloween coming up. Costumes are going to be around. We might do something revolving around, let's say, when we do our Halloween special, which will be in 2 weeks, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly.
That would be correct, the 29th of October.
Perfect. So for that episode, I would say if, let's say, Liverpool win, you get to decide what I wear as a costume.
So when
If
Liverpool wins, I get to decide what you wear for a costume.
Or when Man United and Ruben Almiron decide that they actually are going to show up. And a quick little secret here. I think Dorgu for Man United, who's our left wing back, is going to actually have an outstanding game and turn the tide.
Isn't he the little green guy from Star Wars, Mandalorian, Grogu?
That's Grogu. I'm talking Dorgu. Dorgu. Um,
Okay.
I may be butchering. He's a Danish left wing back. Played phenomenal for Denmark over here recently in the international break. But if Man United win, then I of course will be able to choose what you get to wear for that episode.
Okay. I mean, I will agree to the bet, knowing that Liverpool is going to wipe the floor with you. It is at
Mm-hmm.
Anfield too, by the way, so that is very exciting. And maybe next week after the game we can discuss what these costumes might look like. Just because this is European football and draws do exist, do we have a draw clause in place? Like, do we both show up with a bag over our head because ties are like kissing your sister and you don't want to be seen doing that?
So here's the thing: is in my position, getting a point at Anfield with where we're at currently in the table,
That's not how this works.
I'm fully okay with that. So like a draw, I consider that a win, quite frankly.
Okay, well,
So I think in this, you're kind of in this odd position, Jack, because you only really are in an okay position if you get all 3 points. If we come into your town and we take any points off the table from you, we are ecstatic and we will be celebrating and drinking pints in the streets afterwards. So I got a couple options for me to have a good Sunday. You have
okay.
one.
Well, drinking pints in the streets on Saturday because you can't get back in the house because you guys stink. No, I will be having a great Sunday because not only will Liverpool be beating Manchester United, you'll get to wear some ridiculous costume that I think of. I get to
Mm-hmm.
support the AFC East leading New England Patriots, but we will get to the NFL
Oh,
shortly.
yeah, great.
We will discuss a potential draw clause. We'll fill everyone back in,
Mm-hmm.
but keep an eye out for that Sunday Premier League matchup. Now, Mac, I know you have a big slate of European games here as well, spanning the various countries and leagues that we have. So why don't you run us through some of these other games? How about we head to España and La
Yes,
Liga?
of course. And we'll make this a quick pick for each country and league, just because we definitely have a lot more sports to cover. But we're heading over to Spain for La Liga. There's 3 games I'm going to be looking at. First one is going to be Villarreal versus Real Betis. I really like both teams to score in this one, just with how both are placed. I think Real Betis have some really strong talent, one of which Anthony, who is a loan from Man United, who's really found his footing over there, especially when he first initially loaned out last year. But I do think both teams are going to be able to score. Betis, of course, has a consistency of scoring goals home and away. So in this away match, it's going to be good for them. For Barcelona versus Girona, I actually, of course, am going to be leaning towards Barcelona, although Lamine Yamal may not be playing. Rafinha is also already going to be confirmed out. But Yamal, of course, is dealing with a injury, and I kid you not, the article I read said it was in his pubic area. So
So it was at his birthday party that he hired a bunch of 18-year-old OnlyFans models,
yeah, so
allegedly.
I'm assuming that's he had a little too much fun over there. So even with him being out, Barcelona will take that win. Not a money line I'd want to go straight with, but pairing that with the both teams to score. I would even consider even over 2.5 goals in that match as well. Barcelona's looked a little sus defensively. And then, of course, to top it off, add one more to the parlay. Real Madrid versus Getafe. Real Madrid, I think, is our pick there. Pretty safe moving forward. I've had a lot of success also doing parlaying Real Madrid with a Kylian Mbappe goal. The guy is their go-to. He does their penalties. It's pretty consistent on that one. Now, if we head over to Germany and the Bundesliga, there's 2 games in particular I'm really looking at, and I'm going to be calling this the Bayern double. So I'm going to be adding the Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund money line for Bayern Munich itself. Although Dortmund have looked very strong this year, especially with their consistency of young talent. Bayern Munich just is kind of unstoppable at this point. Harry Kane is scoring goals left and right. And I just really like that squad at the moment, even versus Dortmund. I do think it will be a close game. I do also see a lot of goals, but Bayern Munich moneyline is my pick there. You could also switch that out, though, for over 2.5, so you don't have too much at stake depending on an upset. But I want to parlay with the Mainz versus Bayern Leverkusen match, specifically betting on Bayern Leverkusen here at plus 145. Now, this might even be a game I might want to put 2 units on in a straight bet, but I am loving
Ooh.
Bayern Leverkusen away. I don't think they're getting as much love as they once were, simply because they've lost their manager, Xabi Alonso, who went to Real Madrid. They lost a ton of talent, one of which being Florian Wirtz, who is now at Liverpool. But they're really starting to pick things up. I think they're very sound defensively, and they got some killer talent in that midfield. So I love that line. Mainz is, I think, 1 point above relegation zone in Germany. So I don't understand why they're giving Leverkusen that much of a line there. Maybe there's something we don't know. It could change leading up to kickoff. But as of now, love that pick in itself. So that's going to be my German round up there. Now moving on over to Italy and Serie A. The two games I have been following. First of which, Torino versus Napoli. Napoli, the defending Scudetto winners, I think these guys are firing on cylinders simply because they've also bolstered this squad quite a bit since winning Serie A last year, one of which including Kevin De Bruyne from Manchester City at midfield, who looks like he has found his legs entirely back.
Whoop guy.
Also, he's a whoop guy. We love that. But big thing, too, tell as old as times, they also picked up a player, Rasmus Højlund, from Manchester United, who is on loan, a Danish striker who, of course, has scored more goals in, 3 weeks for Napoli than he did in 2 years, it feels like, for Man United. So another classic case of our players going abroad and starting to find their feet immediately because we are toxic. But who knows? Maybe this gives us some confidence. We can bring him back, and he can be the striker that we so desperately need right now. But Napoli, I love that line. It's like less than minus 130. It might even be minus 120 away. So really a big fan of that one as well. I was going to be also parlaying that with AC Milan. However, breaking news, I say breaking, this happened last night. Christian Pulisic was subbed off early in the friendly against Australia. And AC Milan are reporting they fear it is a serious hamstring injury. So with Pulisic now being out, he has been by far their best player for AC Milan. He won Serie A Player of the Month this last month. That is a huge blow for Milan. They've been on a tear, and I do think even though Fiorentina being at the bottom of the table or near the bottom of the table, it's going to be a competitive game. I think Moise Kean, the striker for Fiorentina, is going to have a field day or at least be of danger to that Milan backline. So I don't know if I'm going to be looking at that anymore. Maybe a double chance for Fiorentina at that point. But other than that, those are my two picks. I'm going to be monitoring AS Roma versus Inter Milan as well as Como versus Juventus. I like to see the lineups. I like to see who's going to be playing going into that. But again, with all these picks, be on the lookout for the posts on Instagram, on X, on all of our socials, because that'll then be our top most confidence picks an hour before kickoff in itself. Round it all up for our countries and clubs, excuse me, we'll be heading over to France. And the three that I am looking at, right off the bat, it's going to be a fun one because it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So on Friday, to kick things off, it's going to be PSG versus Strasbourg. Now, normally I would probably be wanting to favor PSG here, but I actually want to really hammer the both teams to score bet prop because Strasbourg are doing something incredible in France. They are bringing over all this young talent, and they have been able to essentially create this kind of chemistry at a very early window and short window where these kids are meshing extremely well, and they've been playing some of the most exciting football, I think, in France at the moment. They have by far the youngest roster, I think, out of any other club and country, potentially in the top 5, if not all of Europe at this point. Oldest guy in the starting lineup typically is like 22, maybe 23. So it's really, really cool to see. Really exciting story over there. And I think they're going to cause some problems against PSG, especially because PSG is very banged up, especially in midfield at the moment. So I like both teams to score there. Now, Saturday, Marseille and Le Havre. Did I pronounce that correctly, Jack? Mr. French double major?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to you. We can even say samedi. That's Saturday.
Samedi, so oui. Samedi on Saturday, Marseille versus Le Havre, Le Havre. Marseille, that's my pick. Aubameyang has found his foot again as a striker for Marseille. They also have Mason Greenwood, ex-Man United player, who's also been consistently playing well. Also, their manager, Robert, ex-Brighton manager. Big fan of him. He's doing some great things over in Marseille. So Marseille on that one. And then to top it all off for Sunday, very boring pick. But one that we will for Dimanche go with is the Lille and Nantes. Nantes versus Lille. I'm going under 2.5 goals. Again, boring pick, but very bullish and confident on that. So there's going to be
Sunday snooze fest there.
It's going to be, we're going to be focusing on NFL. We're going to be focusing on the Liverpool-Man United match. So we can not even have to follow that and just know when you check the final score, it should be showing under 3 goals at the end of that one. For MLS now, before we kind of touch on Champions League and Europa League, MLS, I really like this Nashville and Inter Miami lineup. If you want to really understand or follow what's to be the best pick with MLS, especially, I always have to look at the lineup before kickoff. We typically see randomly in Inter Miami matches, Lionel Messi is no longer on the starting lineup. They'll say it's for whatever reason it is. I personally think it's because he's playing at a stadium that has turf and not grass. A lot of these people that come over make that decision, but they will say that's not the case, quote unquote. If Messi is starting, if Busquets is starting, if Luis Suarez is starting, and also if, oh my God, the ex-Atletico Madrid midfielder, and I'm blanking on his name. This is embarrassing. Argentinian just came over. It'll come to me later. If the big four are starting, I do think Inter Miami do win this, and that money line is very, very enticing. In fact, I think it's even over plus 200 if I'm not mistaken, or maybe plus 145. But that could be a good one. I will say though, Nashville is very competitive. They have looked extremely well this year. There could be a double chance opportunity, but again, I don't have a solid pick for you guys right now. That's going to be before kickoff. And then, of course, following that, I'm very bullish on LAFC over Colorado Rapids. I think they're one of the hottest teams right now in the MLS. Human's son has come over from Tottenham, and he's been lights out and playing incredibly well and meshing well with that club. And then the biggest and most enticing line I've seen in the MLS slate, maybe let alone in Europe today, is San Jose Earthquakes versus Austin FC. Austin FC is, at the time we are recording this, plus 275. That is a line I am drooling over. I may even do that straight
Could say
up.
it's an earthquake, huh?
It could very well be in San Jose as well. And I think a big thing there, too, is Austin FC have a very exciting squad. It's relatively young, but they have one player in particular who is just firing on all cylinders. And, of course, the name is drawing a blank for me there. But I really like that plus 275. That's going to be my pick. And then for anything in all Champions League, Europa Conference, be on the lookout for our picks day of, morning of. I'm going to be looking at those more heavily. I like to see how the weekend club games go before we dive into actual picks for those in particular. So that's my footy roundup for the next weekend and week. And again, be on the lookout for our picks morning of these matches.
Beautiful. Rodrigo De Paul. That's the name you're
Rodrigo
for
De Paul. Thank you.
You're totally good. I do not have the Austin FC name for you, but I did have Rodrigo De Paul. But you were fired, so I was just letting you go.
I know.
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme.
You know, the embarrassing thing is for the Austin FC player, I was actually thinking of a Nashville player instead.
So we'll have to hammer Nashville.
So here, if anything, you might want to do, and it's going to drive me crazy, so I'm going to have to just look this up here.
All right, well, while you're doing that, you drum up the Icarus play that we are not going to take because it's going to be way too big. I will get us started on the college football slate of the week. We're back in North America, back in the U.S., and we're heading down south to the only top 10 matchup in college football this week. It is number 5 Ole Miss at number 9 Georgia in Athens, between the hedges. Bulldogs minus 7.5, over under 54.5. This is a rematch from last year. Ole Miss got the win in Oxford, so Georgia looking for some revenge. Ole Miss coming off a very sleepy Saturday morning game. They were at home against Washington State, a little bit of a snooze fest, but they survived. Still running backup quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, and you know what? I think this could be a very tough matchup for him. Probably, easily the most hostile environment he's going to be at, with the dogs barking. So I think it's going to come down to coaching. I think Kirby Smart has some extra wrinkles here. It sounds like Ole Miss has been doing prep for this for a few weeks now, because I definitely think they did a little bit of an overlook on Washington State. But I'm going to take Georgia to win this game. I think it means a little bit more for them. They already have the loss on the year to Bama, so I don't think they can drop a second SEC game this early. They do have a tough schedule ahead, and Ole Miss still undefeated. I think they're trying to be the first 7-0 team at Ole Miss since like 1960 something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for a tight one down in Athens, but I will take the Bulldogs, and I do think they're going to be able to cover that 7.5 too. It's a gross hook, but I'll take it. Yeah.
Really? I don't, you know what? I don't blame you here. I think Georgia has a lot to prove right now, and Ole Miss, you enlighten me, Jack. Who have they played this year that has boosted their entire ranking up to 5? Have they played anyone significant?
They did beat LSU, so I
Okay.
think that has been a pretty solid win for them, although LSU hasn't exactly wowed a lot of people as of late.
Mm.
Obviously, Garrett Nussmeier has been a Heisman candidate at the beginning of the year, but, has not been very good as of, the last couple weeks here. They do have wins at Kentucky, at home against Arkansas. They won the little in-state battle there against Tulane, but they did beat, at the time, number 10 LSU, and they have Oklahoma next week. So tough stretch here
Ooh,
for
wow.
Ole Miss, but yeah, I think Georgia is going to get it done here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think in that case, then that makes total sense. So I'll be riding with you on that in good faith. But I think that's a good segue into, if we're sticking to SEC football here, we got number 11 Tennessee at number 6 Bama, which, if I'm seeing correctly, Bama is favored by 8.5 with an over under of 58.5. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the Is Bama Fully Back game. After week one, the loss to FSU, everyone wanted to say Kalen DeBoer out, get him out of there. The woman down there was trying to win the Powerball at 1 point whatever billion it was, saying I'll use the money to buy out Kalen DeBoer. I bet she's probably regretting those words right now because they've rifled off 3 straight ranked wins in a row. Do I think they outplayed Mizzou last weekend? Not really. I think they were the more sound team, as I alluded to at the top of the show, but that's what happens with good teams. They know how to win those close games. I think the Alabama defense is going to cause a lot of problems for the normally high-powered Tennessee offense. Josh Heupel, head coach Tennessee, is an offensive quote-unquote guru, but I think he's going to be in a tough time in Tuscaloosa, and I think the Bama defense is going to be pretty stout. Ty Simpson, quarterback of Alabama, is slowly becoming a true Heisman candidate. This year in college football hasn't
Yeah.
really had that like seminal moment for a player. It's starting to take shape. Usually, obviously, it's now the quarterback award, so you have to find the quarterback of the best team, and Alabama is that. So I think there's going to be points in this game, which I think is going to be probably in the, let's say, 35 to 24 zone. So that would, wow, simple math ticks the over right there at
That
59.
would, yeah.
Yikes.
That is coming down to the
But
hole.
yeah, yeah. So give me Alabama, and I do like
Yeah.
some points in this one as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes total sense on paper, right? I think that last week with Mizzou, it's hard not to look at Mizzou essentially deciding their own fate, especially on that last drive, So I don't think it necessarily was it was more so up until that moment, Mizzou was playing well, not Bama playing poorly. So I do think there is every reason to be favoring them in this game as well. But I think that leads us over to a team that unfortunately let us down last week, and that is, and of course, the bit that I absolutely botched earlier. But as I was trying to say, is it turns out Trojan is good with protection. So number 20 USC at number 13 Notre Dame, and it looks like Notre Dame's favored at -8.5, if I'm seeing that correctly here, with an over of 58.5. So we're looking at the same line and spread as Bama and Tennessee. We'd love to hear your thoughts because this is an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to this. Notre Dame cannot afford to lose. This is essentially a playoff game. This is where we're at in the new age of college football. Games in October mean a whole heck of a lot. And I know you'd say, okay, well, back in the day, you lose one game, you're out. Okay, well, Notre Dame's lost 2 games already this year. In fact, they lost their first 2 games, which many people would say were the 2 most important games on their schedule, and they failed to win both of those games against A&M and Miami. So, look, it comes down to this. Marcus Freeman knows, and his name is being thrown around for this Penn State job, which is not going to happen. He's one of the highest paid coaches in college football. Why would he then go leave to coach at Penn State? It's just not going to happen. So whoever's touting that, kill that narrative. Marcus Freeman's going nowhere. But like I said, cannot afford to lose. They need to win out, and this is the last game on their schedule that's worth a damn. Otherwise, they're going to run the table. They'll go 10-2 by the time this all shakes out. If they don't have a conference championship, they'll finish in the top 10. They'll host another playoff game, and people will have acted like they forgot the loss to A&M acted like they forgot the loss to Miami, which keep in mind, both of those teams are in the top 5 right now in the country. So those were the 2 marquee games on the schedule. This one's a rivalry game. USC is now ranked 20th, so they're going to give them another quote unquote ranked win. But I think it's going to be a bully ball game from Notre Dame. They're going to lean on the run game. Jeremiah Love. They're going to let CJ Carr, the quarterback, manage this game, limit mistakes, play tough defense. So I think Notre Dame is going to take this one.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a must win, absolutely, for them. They cannot afford to be in any kind of position. And I agree. I think this is going to be a game where they're going to go for the jugular. USC, although we saw what they were able to do last week, I just don't feel as if they're going to be able to make it a close game. Notre Dame have everything riding on this game for them, and they're going to be going full pedal to the metal. So I think it's going to be a good game there, and I think Notre Dame's going to cover as well. Which, speaking of covers, right? What's going to be a cover of a nice mountaintop in the state of Utah when we are looking at number 23 Utah, favored -3.5 at the Mormons of BYU, ranked number 15.
Yeah. So here is another game that you look at it and you say, what does this line mean? Vegas, what are you doing to me? Number 15 BYU, undefeated at home. Why would they be 3.5-point underdogs? Well, the answer is Utah's the better team, and it's not like they have to travel very far. They're going, how big is Utah? Really unsure. Been there a couple times. Shout out Trey Merritt. Congrats on the wedding that was in Utah there. But I'm going to go with the Utes, and I'll even take the 3.5. I know the hook is there. Vegas wants to try to trap you with that, but nope. Utah's the better team. It's the first time these two teams have been ranked in the Holy War together since 2009. So a little added nugget there for you.
Very fun.
But I do think Devin Dampier, the quarterback of Utah, is a little too dynamic. He can run, he can pass. He has that, run RPO option plays that are really going to kind of draw out drives, make this a wear you out kind of game. So I will take Utah to cover, and the over under at 49.5, I think, is too high. Both these teams like to live on the ground. So I'm going to take the under in what is likely to be a holy rock fight.
I agree with the under, but if I'm going to have to go with an actual pick here, I am going to be taking my chances on BYU money line. I'm just a sucker for a good plus money line bet on something this close. But also, B, I'm a big Book of Mormon musical fan. And if I'm familiar with the famous song, as it says, and a Mormon just believes. So I believe BYU is going to be taking the W there. I'm going to take that plus money line and walk away with a nice fat earning after that one. But it'll be exciting to follow and know who comes out on top.
Okay, well, those are most of the marquee matchups for the college football slate. There is another ranked matchup in the top 25 with LSU traveling to Vandy. But apologies to my fellow Commodore fans out there. And by fellow, I mean my friends who are Commodore fans. I've had enough of Diego Pavia. Cannot waste any more breath on him. So this will be a get-right game for the LSU Tigers, and I believe Mizzou has to travel to Vanderbilt next weekend, so I will be taking LSU to win that game, and then Mizzou to beat them again. So a Tiger back-to-back whooping.
Wow,
there.
Double Tigers.
And I will give you a specialty game, though, because that's what we do here, and that is going to be in the ACC. And this is another one that people are looking at and they're saying, why would this make any sense? And that is Georgia Tech traveling to Durham, North Carolina, and they are taking on the Dukies. And let me tell you, Georgia Tech has everything in front of them to make the ACC title game. They've beaten Clemson. They are due for a date with Miami later on in the year. But this is where they come back down to earth a little bit. Manny Diaz, former Penn State coach there. I believe he played there as well. He could be up next for the Penn State job. I don't know how long they're going to want to wait. People have talked about Signetti, but he's going to be playing well into January if Indiana continues to roll like they have. So maybe they need to make a decision quickly. Well, what better way to improve your resume? Manny Diaz, former head coach at Miami, current head coach at Duke, take out a top 20, getting the media buzz, get your name brought up a little bit more. And I think he's primed to move to a bigger and better situation. He has the Penn State ties. So I'm going to ride the Dukies on the money line to
Interesting.
win at home against Georgia Tech.
Very interesting. Well, you know what I got to say, Duke has cost me a couple times this year, so I'm a little hesitant on that. But we'll probably ride or die as we typically do, and I'll be tailing you on that, and we'll see how it goes. But I'd be curious. There's a lot of action going on in the state of Texas this weekend too, Jack.
Oh, yes, there is. Things are always bigger in Texas, as they say, Mac. And I know that you
Not
may
with
be,
me, but
yeah,
we still
well,
do the job.
yeah, well, that's why you left. But you might be afraid of the Duke pick, but you are going to love this one. I cooked it up just for you. It is the Texas trifecta. We got a 3-leg money line
Ooh,
parlay,
yeah,
two
give it to me.
favorites on the road.
Oh,
That's going to
okay.
be the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The oil money has injected life into that program. They are firing on all cylinders. They are the best team in the Big 12, hands down. They're going to travel to Arizona State, take on the Sun Devils. Sam Levitt, I believe, is going to play. I did not play last week, rested up in hopes to play. He is the quarterback of Arizona, but I'm going to take the Red Raiders. I am also going to take the wackadoo Texas A&M Aggies, whatever cult that they got going on over there in Aggie Land, College Station. Don't even know how that's a real place, but they're going on the road to Arkansas to take on the Razorbacks, and I'm going to take the top 5 team there. Think A&M is probably the second best team in the SEC, so we're going to ride them.
Yeah,
And the swing game here, we are now taking the home team. That is the TCU Horned Frogs in Fort Worth in a rivalry game against the Baylor
big one.
Bears.
Yep.
And I got a stat for you to back up this pick here, because I believe the money line for TCU last I saw was like minus 111, so it's about as
Close
close
one.
to a pick 'em as it can
Yeah,
be.
we
But
left some good stats though.
TCU is 3-1 against the spread when favored by 3 or more. The line is currently sitting at 3 points. And you talk about common opponents. Now, this one comes with a caveat. TCU did just lose to Kansas State, and Baylor just beat Kansas State 2 weeks ago. So, common opponent, win-loss, favors the Baylor Bears. But
We like it.
Baylor is as porous as a sieve in my cupboard, and they give a 501 total yards to the Kansas State Wildcats, including first downs, and the Wildcats converted 8 of their 16 third downs.
Yeah.
I like the offense of the Horned Frogs. Josh Hoover, quarterback there. I think he's going to sling it around the yard. ECU has been profitable for me this year, including a massive first win over old coach Bill Belichick.
Yep.
And Baylor has killed us. And so I'm going to ride the Horned Frogs. If you're watching at home, I'm doing the weird little Horned Frog thing here. I don't know if Baylor has one, but I imagine it's kind of like a rar situation.
Sure.
So yeah, that one is going to be plus 200. 3 teams on the money line. The Texas trifecta. That is Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Texas Christian.
We love a good Texas trifecta. You know, it makes me feel as if I'm almost back home, although it's been, at this point, 15, maybe 20 years. But, you know, we're going to love the focus and attention to the great state of Texas. So shout out to Texas there. And that wraps up our college football weekend slate, Jack, unless I'm missing anything.
No, I think that about does it. That about does it. So we can move on to the big boys. And by big, I mean old, because Thursday night, tonight, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
are listening on drop day, we have the AARP Bowl, as I'm going to call it. That is the
Sponsored
Pittsburgh
by Viagra.
Steelers. Yes, most likely. Or ayahuasca, however you want to look at it. Pittsburgh going to Cincinnati. Steelers minus 5.5 point favorites on the road. Total sitting
Ugh.
at 43.5. Yes, folks, this is Aaron Rodgers versus Joe Flacco now in Cincinnati. You do not need to adjust your screens. It is 2025, not 2009. This game is gross,
Mm-hmm.
so I do not love really anything about it. I will say I'll back the Steelers at 5.5, which just threw up a little bit in my mouth saying that. Uh,
Yeah.
but their defense is starting to take shape. Rodgers has actually looked pretty decent. in the last couple weeks. Flacco's been in Cincinnati for like a day and a half,
Yeah.
but I do like some props in this game, so stay tuned to the socials. And Mac, if I am not mistaken, we're now on TikTok as well for all you Utes out there.
Yeah, for the Utes, I got us signed up for TikTok. I'm going to have some help from my fiance to walk me through the ropes, but you'll be seeing clips, you'll be seeing pics, you'll be seeing everything we can to get across that demographic, if you will. But very exciting times here at the Cover Story. In talks with the Steelers game, though, too, I love that we are talking about DK Metcalf because he has been making us a lot of money on live drive picks. So this is a friendly reminder for those that are on legal gambling sites in the states that have them. If you join our social group on DraftKings, you will be able to tail and follow all of our live drive picks while they happen. That has probably been the most success and profitable betting strategy that we've seen since we started doing this. So something just to keep in mind there. We'd love, obviously, for you guys to be able to benefit from that. But I can say with confidence, I will be looking at definitely some receptions for both of your picks there on some particular drives, depending on what's going on in the game, to get some nice money back before we see the outcome. So excited for that one, although more so just excited about the prospect of betting on some live bets.
Yeah, no, the
Now,
game's going to be gross.
I'm not looking forward to it. It's on a prime time. Although I will say, Aaron Rodgers, the showman that he is, right? We're talking Hugh Jackman-esque, if you will. Is he one to then show up on primetime? I mean, I'd like to see in the last 3 years what he's done on primetime, because that's going to be something I'm going to be interested in to see what he's going to be looking like on Thursday night. But I have the feeling he's going to want to make a statement to show, hey, I may be on a bunch of, life alert kind of stuff going on, but I think he's going to want to show out. So we'll be curious to look at that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of showing out on primetime, the Atlanta Falcons are in primetime for the second straight week, coming off a massive win on Monday night. We touched on it earlier, but they are headed out west to San Francisco. 49ers minus 2.5. Over under is 47.5. Is this a letdown game? Are the Falcons for real? 49ers are banged up. Fred Warner's leg went backwards. I hate that. Gross.
Yeah.
Feel terrible. Fred Warner is awesome. Arguably the best linebacker in the league. Is Mac Jones going to turn back into a pumpkin? There's question marks all over this game. Mac, what's your lean here? I've been back and forth on this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? After seeing what the Falcons did earlier this week in that run game, it's all going to come down to that. And I think with Shanahan at the helm with the Niners, he's going to be doing everything he can to stop that run. And if that does happen, I have little to no faith in Penix to be able to then sling the rock around enough to make a big of an impact. So I like the 2.5 for the 49ers. They haven't been impressive really much, of course, at all. Mac Jones, I mean, he has been somewhat consistent, but I think the under is where I'm absolutely going to be loving and leaning in on and applying to any parlay or straight bets there. But overall on a pick, I mean, I probably would go 49ers. I just think Shanahan is going to cover that run game, and I have no faith in Penix to be able to actually get the ball across the needle. So
waiting all day for Sunday Night Under. Yikes.
I know.
Don't think Carrie's going to be happy to sing about that one, but we will see.
Sorry,
that brings us to Monday night doubleheader. Before we dive into the two games, I need your opinion. Do we like this 2 Monday night thing? I know it's because they have the London games and they got to move a bunch of crap around, but last week we had them starting at 7 and 8 o'clock Eastern. This week, I do believe we have the 3-hour buffer, 2-hour buffer in between.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, well, we have Bucks at Lions and Texans at Seahawks.
Okay.
We can start with the Bucks at Lions, but thoughts. I don't love the two games at once scenario.
No.
Just let me enjoy one Monday night game. I got to come down from a long weekend,
it's one of those things where I love the excuse to stay up late on a school night and watch football. So if you're going to do it, have them be separate games. Have the last one, of course, be on like a West Coast location. So it's I'm okay as an Eastern New Englander staying up late to watch that. But when they have two games going on simultaneously, like not everyone's going to have the benefit to be able to multi-stream the games at the same time. I also, of course, love listening to the commentary, the analysts, although a lot of them are not the best. But it ruins it for me, right? And it doesn't make sense financially for the NFL. Like, why would they put themselves in a position to where on prime time people have to pick and choose potentially on what game they're going to watch? So doesn't make sense. Not a fan. If they are going to do it, stick to what they're going to be doing this Monday with 7 to 10 Eastern time. At least we get 2 separate viewings there. So that's my take on the whole.
Yeah, bit of a mess. It takes a toll, man. You gotta start on Thursday. There's even college games going on right now. On Wednesday night, you got to start on Thursday. You got to make it all the way through Friday. Start early Saturday. We got soccer to watch too, and then London starts at 8:30.
Unstop, baby.
I got to get up early for the dog. It's a lot. It's taking a toll. My sleep score has not been great once the NFL season starts. But someone that has been great, most valuable, if you will, is Baker Mayfield. He's headed
Whew.
to Detroit.
Yeah.
Lions -5.5, over under 52.5. I mean, I want to take Baker so badly because he has been such a dog. What he's doing with that offense. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, and Emeka Ibuka left the game early. Shout out DraftKings for the early exit.
Mm-hmm. No.
So the offensive line troubles. Tristan Wirfs, I think, is coming back this week. We'll see. But he's been a complete stud. Took out the 49ers last week in the 4 o'clock window. Is now headed to Detroit. Unfortunately, I think Dan Campbell and the gang are going to be quite fired up after that loss to the Chiefs. I think this is a poor spot for the Bucs, scheduled loss, if you will. So I think the Lions are going to take this one, and it might get ugly, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's like I never. After what we've been seeing that Baker's been doing this year, you feel as if he is a no-brainer to back at any given week at this point. But with the way the chips have been dealt, or the cards have been dealt, and the chips have been placed, it's hard not for me to put full confidence in Lions not only covering, but really kind of putting the foot down. And I think they take it to them. I think they have a message that they want to send to the NFL at this point, especially after last week. So I see Lions going all out, winning by potentially double-digit points, if not 2 touchdowns. Although Baker is going to pull some magic off. It's not as if he's going to be non-existent. This isn't going to be his fall from the grace of the earth. He's going to have a good game still. Hard not to back him. He's having an MVP caliber season, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really make it too close of a game against the Lions right now.
Yeah. I think he's gonna be the dog he is. I think he's now tied for the NFL lead in third down rushing conversions after his 3rd and 16 scamper that he avoided probably 4 or 5 tackles. He's tied with Jalen Hurts, and that's just probably got to be a bunch of tush pushes. So he does it the real way. Looking ahead to the night slate, though, Texans coming off a bye, headed out west to Seattle. Seahawks -3, over under 41.5, one of the lower totals of the weekend. Credit to us. I will give us credit to where credit is due. We did call the Seahawks over the Jags this past weekend.
Yeah, we did.
So that was a nice profitable plus money play there. Had them outright. Mike McDonald, that defense is fierce. Sam Darnold, I think, just might be good now. So, I mean, JSN is obviously a freak.
Yeah, absolute stud.
Seahawks tied atop the NFC West. They're 3-0 on the road and 1-2 at home, which is very puzzling.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Texans have really figured it out yet. I know they're coming off the bye, but I still think that offensive line is dreadful. CJ Stroud's been running for his life all year long. So I'm going to take the Seahawks in that one. The total, I don't really have a lean on because I really want to go under there, which is just gross. And I feel like we're taking way too many unders in primetime. So I might stay away from that, but I'll take the Seahawks and the points. What are your thoughts, my good sir?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. It's baffling that the Seahawks are 1-2 at home, but 3-0 on the road. And seeing that kind of stat line is, again, as I mentioned earlier, like, they're due. They should be showing up in home base here. I like that line too. We backed them last week on a good line. I'm down to back them again. I agree. The Texans don't really have an identity at the moment. They're still kind of figuring it out. So I will agree with you. There's a lot of prop opportunity, in my opinion, on that one, though. I think I'm going to be looking at potentially a Nick Chubb touchdown, JSN touchdown, or if not, definitely JSN receptions is going to be, I think, a lot of juice for us there. Sam Darnold's consistent, man. He doesn't make dumb plays. He's not really throwing many, if any, too many interceptions at the point. So that's going to be one where there's going to be a lot of prop opportunity, in my opinion, that we will then be sharing our picks for those an hour before kickoff.
That we will. So keep an eye on that Monday night. Now let's attack some of the rest of these Sunday games before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly breeze through what could be actually a decent game, but it'll happen at 9:30. So I don't know if many of you are going to be awake for it. That is the London game. The London Jaguars are hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Over-unders at 45.5. Rams -3, technically on the road. The Jags have the voodoo magic in London. I think Puka is banged up. I don't know if he's going to be 100%. I think he's listed as questionable. The Rams defense is legit. Don't get me wrong. That front seven is absolutely ferocious. Jared Verse has been phenomenal. I think second year out of Florida State, but I'm gonna take Jags solely because they are the London franchise. They know how to work. They know how it works over there. They got the quote unquote home support. So sure, I'll take Jags and 3 points. Why not?
Yeah, no, I don't have any really much insight on this one either. It's one of the things where I think Stafford flying all the way over from California to London is going to be a bit of a trek. So that's going to be an adjustment for him. I can see that affecting his gameplay on that Sunday morning. And I agree, they're banged up. If Puka's not playing, Devontae Adams means he's going to have a hell of a game. So I will say I would be looking at some props primarily revolving around Adams. And I also am going to call out, I know we just mentioned the Rams front seven is pretty ghastly and strong at this point. But I'm feeling our boy St. Etienne's about to have a turnaround. The last 2 weeks he has been kind of a dud, but he started out hot, got cool. I think he's going to have a comeback game. So I'm going to be looking at some props for him as well. But that's really what I'm going to be focusing on for the Sunday morning slot.
Now up next we have the Are they a good game? I'm not totally sure. I can't understand how this team still gets wins. That is the Giants at Broncos. Broncos -7, over under 39.5. Yuck. Yeah, Giants, I have no idea if they're good or not. The Broncos, they should be good. Their defensive unit is obviously touted as one of the best, if not the best in the league. Pat Surtain, I believe he's the reigning defensive player of the year. Yeah, no Malik Neighbors for the Giants. I know they've had the Scattaboo game, but he's going to be at altitude. The front of Denver, the run D is stout. I think this is just very much like take the Broncos -7 because that's what you should do. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. No, there's a trend here, Jack. I'm having a bit of a roller coaster with this New York Giants squad. And I typically find myself running into these kind of patterns, and it's tough for me to make a decision. So when I look at this Jackson Dart-led offense, I see him have an incredible first game. I decide, you know what? There's something there. We're going to go full bull, and we're going to put some money on Dart and Scattaboo. What do they do the following week? Absolute duds, and costs me everything. So then what do we do the following week? We decide to fade. Well, although, as we know and discussed earlier, my initial reasoning of why I did not want to back them was because of the previous week's performance. They showed up. If I now think because they had a really good week last week, they are going to be falling off the face of the earth this week, does that mean I then want to, of course, back the Broncos -7? But you know what? There's just something cooking in the city of New York right now with Jackson Dart and with Scattaboo. Okay? Those two guys, let me tell you, they're bringing the city of New York back to the NFL. And I say that as a Cowboys fan, of course, so I don't really like the Giants, although shout out Cuzzos, who are also Giants fans. I think they're going to cook something up special. And I think this Broncos D that we have been saying all this time is one of the best in the league. They're going to make that defense look as if they are a Mountain West college football team.
Ooh.
Jackson Dart and Cam Scattaboo are going to run and throw all over that Broncos D, and I'm going to be betting the Giants money line on that one. I want the Giants to lose, but at this point, we're in tank mode for the Dallas Cowboys. So let's go for a bold statement here with Dart and Scattaboo and the Giants beating the Broncos in Denver at Mile High and make some nice profit off that one.
That would certainly be spicy. Well, I wish you the best of luck on that one. That one might be a stay away game for me. But this is my Paul Rudd meme, hey, look at us game. That is the Indianapolis Colts. Now that's the AFC leading 5-1 Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Going to LA taking on the Chargers, -1.5 in favor of the Bolts. Over under 48.5. The Chargers 4-2 sit atop the AFC West with the previously mentioned Kansas City Chiefs nipping at their heels, waiting in the wings. But Justin Herbert's got the hot girlfriend. He has somewhat figured out his number one receiver in the form of Quentin Johnson. Did not play last week. Went back to Lad McConkey. What's he do? Caught like 8 balls, 100 yards, touchdown. Doesn't matter. Which one of those you want to go to this week? Don't know. Let's see. Kamani Vidal, running back for Chargers. Next man up. Najee Harris blows his eye off with some fireworks. Dummy. Then you got, Omarion Hampton. He goes down with a knee. Dummy. But Harbaugh. He has been the steady hand amongst this year so far for the Chargers. I know they've dropped a couple games here, but I think this could be a get-right game. I think they could be back in the driver's seat of the AFC West. But I'm completely lying. I'm going to take Indiana Jones on the road. I think their offense is great. Jonathan Taylor has just quietly been the best running back in all of football right now. I know we've touched on Bijan Robinson. He's been fantastic, but Jonathan Taylor has like 700 yards already this season.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, whatever you want to call him. He's looked great. He makes $100,000 for every win that the Colts have. So right now he's already made $500,000 in incentives.
We love a good comeback story.
And I think that defense is as tough as they can be. So, shout out to the Colts. I think that is the team that nobody saw coming, but they are, quietly just running away with the AFC South. Well, not running away. You got the Jaguars hanging around there at 4-2 as well. But I'm going to take the Colts on the road to win outright.
So you're telling me to hammer the Colts away unfavored and the Giants away unfavored. And you're also probably going to tell me, looking at some of these other games, just to throw out some options right here.
Oh, boy.
Eagles and Vikings. Eagles at -1.5 against the Vikings. I don't know. Are they going to actually show up again? Because they're on this kind of a downward spiral as well. This is their comeback game. I'm just going to imagine here, if I were able to cook this up, let's just play with some fire here, Jack.
I have it for you. Hit me.
It's money line.
+285.
Yeah, Colts money line.
+110.
Eagles -1.5.
Eagles -1.5 at -112.
Oh yeah. That one.
Is that it? That's where we're stopping.
Well, I don't know. Tell me what the number is, and then I'll see if I want to add some more spices.
So that 3-leg right now is currently sitting at +1430.
All right, folks, you heard it here. Mac at the cover story is going to be betting the lot on this parlay. Okay. Now, we want you, as always, as we say, tell responsibly, fade if you dare. This one, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be wanting to fade with some courage, I should say. But at a +1400, I am going to hammer that one. And knowing I'm probably going to be seeing that go down the drain. But could you imagine if Jackson Dart shows up in Denver?
Who knows? I'm going to go Icarus for you just so we can even get closer to the sun here. I'll give you the Carolina Panthers -1.5 against the Jets, the lowly Jets. You add that game, and it turns into
what do we got?
+2796. If you can hear that from all the way atop the mountain where we are, high up close to the sun here, Icarus.
Yep.
Yikes, that one is muy caliente, as spicy as they come.
I think that's going to be, that might have to be a fun little 0.5 unit if we're adding the Panthers on that one. Or, who knows? Maybe we just go the lot and we buy a home next year.
Yeah, who knows? Always, again, be responsible. Check out the socials for all of our picks throughout the weekend. Find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok now. If we figure out how to work TikTok, we're both, trying to get that down at the cover story _pod, at the cover story pod. You can find us anywhere. Again, tune in every Thursday. Watch on the YouTube. Mac, episode 2 in the books. Any parting thoughts? Any other lines jumping out at you, you want to just quickly throw to the people, or are you ready to strap in for another weekend of sports
Yeah.
betting?
Ready to strap in. I will just call out, though, I believe we said last episode we are going to be cleaning this up and not going over an hour. And we actually have gone like almost 15 more minutes than we did on the first episode. So, hey, I like to think this is enjoyable. I like to think we are entertainment. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode as much as we've enjoyed. But I will say our goal for episode 3 will be to get under an hour. But coming at you live here from the Cover Story, thank you so much for tuning in. Be on the lookout again for all those picks leading up to games, whether it's kickoffs, whether it's the first pitch, or if it's going to be a tip-off or puck drop. We will keep you posted. We will be sharing picks for all sports that we follow, and hope you do too. And we'll looking forward to hearing and seeing from you the following week. But again, like, subscribe, comment, chat with us, talk with us, follow with us. We appreciate being here.
All right, folks. Adios. As always, tail responsibly, fade if you dare.